The biggest consumer brand in America doesn't really make anything. Kirkland Signature sells roughly $86 billion of product a year, more than Coca-Cola's entire company, more than Nike's. And the open secret behind that number is that a huge share of what's inside those white and red packages comes off the same production lines as the name brands sitting 3 feet away on the shelf at 20 to 35% less. In our last file, we called this the trailer. Today, it's the feature. Who actually makes Kirkland, what's confirmed, what's printed right on the box, and which famous rumor turns out to be completely wrong. This is the liquidation files. Open the folder. Start with the one that's on the record from the top of the company because it sets the pattern for everything else. In 2016, Costco's own CEO, Craig Jelinek, said it plainly in a television interview. Kirkland Signature batteries are made by Duracell, not a comparable manufacturer. Duracell. The copper-top company builds Costco's house batteries, and the Kirkland pack typically runs 25 to 35% cheaper per battery than the Duracell pack sitting an arm's length away. Independent battery tests routinely score them neck and neck, which stops being surprising the moment you know they share a parent. Sit with the strangeness of that for a second. Why would Duracell, a brand built on decades of advertising that its batteries are worth paying more for, agree to manufacture the cheaper product that undercuts it in the same aisle? Hold that question. It's the actual subject of this file, and we'll answer it. But first, the tour, because once you start reading Kirkland packaging like a document instead of a label, the whole warehouse turns into a confession. Some of it isn't even hidden. Flip over a box of Kirkland aluminum foil and the word Reynolds is printed on the packaging. The Kirkland albacore tuna names Bumble Bee as the supplier. The cranberry juice carries Ocean Spray's involvement openly. The red party cups come from Chinette. The Parmigiano Reggiano names the Italian house that selects it right on the package. For a supposedly mysterious brand, Kirkland does a remarkable amount of telling on itself. You just have to read the back of the box instead of the front. Then there's the layer that took reporters and regulators to uncover. Kirkland diapers, made by Kimberly-Clark, the Huggies company, confirmed by Costco's own chief financial officer in a 2017 Wall Street Journal interview, who added a detail I love. Costco asked both Kimberly-Clark and Procter & Gamble to make its diapers, and only one said yes. Kirkland dog food, made by Diamond Pet Foods, a connection that became undeniable in 2012 when a salmonella recall at a Diamond plant swept up Kirkland product along with the name brands from the same facility. Recalls, it turns out, are the industry's involuntary honesty policy. When something goes wrong at one factory, the recall list tells you exactly which competing brands were roommates. And Kirkland infant formula spent years being made by Abbott, the Similac company, documented in a USDA report, before the supply quietly shifted to Perrigo, the giant that manufactures store-brand formula for half the country. And then there's the coffee, my favorite chapter, because it runs in both directions. For years, Kirkland's house blend and espresso bags carried 4 words in plain sight: custom roasted by Starbucks. No leak, no rumor. Starbucks' own name on Costco's bag at 20 to 30% less per pound than the bag with the siren on it. But here's the twist. Around 2024, shoppers noticed the Starbucks wording quietly vanished from those bags. New packaging, no announcement, no explanation from either company. The label giveth and the label taketh away, and the takeaway is bigger than coffee. These arrangements are rentals, not marriages. Costco treats even Starbucks as a replaceable subcontractor. Remember that for the end of this file. Now, the myth. Because no Kirkland story is more famous than this one, and it's wrong. For years, the internet has sworn that Kirkland's French vodka is secretly Grey Goose. It's repeated in every comment section, every listicle, every group chat. Here's what the actual paper trail says. Federal alcohol records show Kirkland's French vodka is produced through the Levesque Corporation at the Guyant Distillery in Douai, France. Grey Goose's own global ambassador publicly denied the connection. It's French, it's 5 times distilled, and it is not Grey Goose. But here's the beautiful part. The reason this myth refuses to die. In blind taste tests, The $20 Kirkland has repeatedly beaten the $50 Grey Goose anyway. People invented a secret luxury pedigree to explain quality that didn't need one. The vodka was never Grey Goose. It just tastes like the price tag is lying, because the price tag usually is. Which brings us back to the question from the battery aisle. Why do the brands do this? Why does Duracell build the thing that undercuts Duracell? Two reasons, and they're both about power. The first is volume. Costco moves oceans of product, and a factory would rather run at full capacity making someone else's label than run half-empty protecting its own. The margin is thinner, the check's clear anyway. The second reason is the one with teeth. Kirkland isn't just a product line, it's a negotiating weapon. Costco's rule for Kirkland is that it has to match or beat the national brand on quality while costing meaningfully less. So every national brand in the warehouse lives with a standing threat. Give Costco your best price, or Costco will build a Kirkland version of you, possibly in your own factory, possibly in a factory Costco builds itself. That's not hypothetical. When suppliers couldn't or wouldn't protect the $4.99 rotisserie chicken and the food court hot dog, Costco built its own poultry plant in Nebraska and its own hot dog production. The brands that say yes to making Kirkland aren't partners so much as hostages with good terms. And here's the number that makes this a Liquidation Files episode and not a shopping tip. Costco's own annual report says it plainly. Kirkland Signature carries higher margins than the national brands it sits beside. Read the whole flow. The factory does the manufacturing. The national brand spends billions on the advertising that trains you what a premium product is worth. And Kirkland, which owns almost none of the factories and buys almost none of the ads, skims a better margin than either by simply putting a plainer label on the same output. $86 billion a year flowing through a brand whose main asset is the absence of a markup story. The most profitable thing in the warehouse isn't a product, it's the missing advertising budget. If you've been with us since the first file, you'll recognize the shape of this. Red Lobster taught us the building and the restaurant could be split, and the value followed the building. Toys R Us taught us the company and its debt could be split, and the value followed the fees. This file is the same lesson pointed at your shopping cart. The product and the brand are two different things, made in two different places, and almost everything you pay above the Kirkland price is buying the second one. The factory is the product. The label is the markup. Kirkland is just the rare case where the receipt admits it. So the next time you're standing in that aisle, holding the name brand in one hand and the white and red package in the other, same shelf, same factory, different story, you're not really choosing between two products. You're deciding what the story is worth. If you want more files like this one, the companies you grew up with, the labels you trusted, and the paper trails underneath them, that's what we do here at the Liquidation Files. The next file is already open.